Homeworld, Elite Dangerous, EVE Online, No Man's Sky, Freelancer, the list goes on and on. I love games set in the vast, seemingly unending expanse of space. I have to admit, I've even asked for a telescope for Christmas this year. I am fascinated by it. When I loaded Everspace up, it was with a wealth of experience behind me in all of those games that I had expectations, hopes, and quite frankly, some fears. But I didn't expect this game at all. Let's find out why. You begin your story as so many others have done before. The protagonist, Adam, is placed at the helm of a ship. He knows two things. He's a pilot and also he's not real. Adam is a clone, but whose and why is a mystery. And as you progress through the story, and there really is a lovely little story here, albeit a cliche one, you discover more about Adam's past and how he was an exceptional pilot, but something, as it always does, went horribly wrong. Every good pilot needs a wingman, and you soon bump into a blast from the past, bringing still more questions than answers. What I love about story is that in a roguelike, and yes, this is a roguelike, story is very difficult to implement. Here, as you reach certain checkpoints of progression, cutscenes begin to paint a picture for you. The beauty of this is that it feels like each run has a purpose, a goal other than simply advancing your wealth or gear. On your journey, you'll meet a fitting motley crew of aliens and other inhabitants of the wider reaches of space.
Stopping that from happening. Agreed. It would make the area safer for all of us, I suppose.
These will offer you a slew of side missions which are fully voiced, and these persist after you have died, so you always feel there is a reason to go on. Story, as mentioned, isn't going to win any awards, but the delivery is good enough, particularly for the genre, and scores 15 out of 20. So you're probably wondering how you can have a roguelike in space with a decent story and side missions. Well, fear not, my friends, I aim to enlighten you. You play as the clone Adam and choose one of two starter ships, saving up $10,000 apiece, and you can unlock the other two. Ships can be customized with different colors and skins, and you can unlock alternative starter loadouts as you buy perks at the end of each run. More on this later. You begin in a tutorial area where you're taught the basics of how to pilot the ship, change weapons, and generally just not get killed. There are no motion controls, and I found the default controls to be really quite odd. Thank goodness for multiple control schemes. The game has something to suit everyone, and I highly recommend the third scheme, which had the accelerator and reverse as the left stick, triggers raising and lowering and hovering, and the right stick for aiming and barrel rolling. It was on point, and the difference in how I could control the ship was night and day. Just see for yourself.
Trade parts?
You're learning.
Then, after the change, I could do things like this. Each ship handles very differently as well, and their strengths and weaknesses change the feeling of the run entirely. When a developer doesn't have too much pride in their way being the best and only way, and provide the user with lots of options to tailor the controls to the way they want, they're going to score more points from me every day of the week. So what do you actually do? Each area has a randomly generated element to it. You can fight enemy ships, locking onto them and fighting dogfight style. If you click on the left stick, it will apply a boost, and it just felt so good being able to dodge missiles fired at you if you were skillful enough. And you can shoot these down as well, or jink your way out of their path. Combat feels fantastic. As you kill enemies, they will drop loot and resources. These can be used to upgrade your current gear or craft entirely new weapons and ship modifications once you have the blueprints. Emergent events will take place as well, such as coming across a huge wreckage of a ship. Now, in most games that would be great and you could loot them and you would be quite happy with that. Often though, in Everspace, the AI companion will tell you a little tale of what occurred and why, and the lore of the game is constantly being fleshed out. I really like this touch.
The level of destruction is breathtaking.
Hostilities only ceased when resources were exhausted, forcing both sides to the negotiating table.
Another great addition is the fact that you can fly almost anywhere. Shipwreck has a chunk out of it. Fly inside and try and find some salvage. Just beware of some drones. The asteroid has mining points within. What are you waiting for? Fly in there and find out. Going back to the combat for a second, combat can be brutally difficult. And you'll have to be an ace pilot to survive. Thankfully, the game offers 3 difficulty modes which will change this but reduce the amount of cash you're offered, which is a good risk and reward system. Another example of how combat caters for the skilled pilot is how you can use the scenery to your advantage. Taking heavy damage, I darted for an old shipwreck, span around and hid on the far side, allowing me time to compose myself and let my shields begin to regenerate. Holding minus, I could bring up my ship's menus. From here, I began repairing and upgrading the different gear on my ship. It is also within these menus you can check your star map and later in the game locate your old shipwreck to recover some lost loot. Progression through each sector is the main aim, and these get larger and offer multiple paths to travel. Your upgraded scanner can give you an indication of the threat posed in these before you travel to them. What I enjoyed was that each new area seemed to offer enough variety, and the combat is so good that despite some quick and early deaths, I wanted to progress and go on. Upon death, you arrive back at the starting hangar. Here you can spend the cash you earned on permanent perks for your ship. Improving your ship's speed and shields makes an instant and noticeable difference when back in game, and you feel like you're getting stronger with each run. For me, that alone is what many roguelikes fail at. After clearing an area, you point towards a jump gate and will automatically count down before you jump. You'll have to ensure you have enough fuel to make it though, which can be scavenged or salvaged. There are trader ships you can do business with, and also some who offer rarer items in exchange for some work. Keys can be purchased from these to open some locked containers you may stumble across on a shipwreck. This will net you some serious rewards. Weapons and ship upgrades work very much like a traditional RPG. When you come across something you can equip, you press A and it will show you a simple comparison between what you have and what you've found. Improvements are shown in green and reductions in red. An elegant and simple system that doesn't require any messing around in menus. You simply accept the change and they swap positions, allowing you to scrap the old part for materials you can use later, or you just outright scrap what you found. The ship also has a module system. One-time active modules are aplenty across the galaxy and include things like a booster that increases the damage of your main weapon or your shield. Passive upgrades are the real gold though, and will do as they say without running out. But if you've got the parts and blueprints from a previous run, you can outright craft a new weapon and scrap the old one. I guess by now you're probably seeing that there is a really solid game here. Each run feels fresh, and managing the energy drain of various components and tweaking your setup can be as simple or as complex as you want to make it. Early on you'll feel like a weakling and get wrecked a few times, but after a little practice and some upgrading you begin to feel much more adept and capable. Story kept me wanting to get a little further each time as well. Some of the elements don't work as well as you would like, and more ships wouldn't go amiss. By its nature, there is going to be repetition creeping in over a long enough time span, but still it's solid. Gameplay scores 18 out of 20, and those tight controls, when they've been tweaked, score 18 out of 20 as well. Just don't use the default. Visually, the game can look lovely. It is certainly pushing the Switch in terms of on-screen action at times, and there are the occasional minor slowdowns. For the most part, everything runs really well. My main gripe is handheld mode. It seems to me that the Switch drops so much GPU power in this mode that many of the games simply aren't well optimized for the shift, and opt for simple dynamic resolution scaling that ends up making a game look really quite blurry. It's in no way near as bad as Doom when it first released on Switch, but it definitely needs to be mentioned. Docked, the game can look stunning, but again, also suffers from some slightly lower resolution textures. For me, the really important element here is the performance, and that, as mentioned, is mostly solid. The audio is actually, at least for me, a little disappointing at times. You can select from the original soundtrack that has some absolutely excellent songs on it. There are just a few that didn't hit the mark. Whereas I think of music from films like Interstellar as the gold standard, or maybe even 2001: A Space Odyssey, here you occasionally, not always, but get things like this. It just lacks the gravitas I would have liked throughout the game. At other times though, it's absolutely great. Voice acting is okay. Patrick Stewart, he doesn't need to fear his role though in the upcoming Star Trek series refresh.
Why is this happening? Who am I? Who is my original?
But the side characters are all surprisingly good. Visuals and audio score 14 out of 20. Even having just ploughed far too many hours into the game, I can feel the depth here. At £28.79 or €31.99 and $39.99, this is definitely on the higher side for the eShop. But you're getting a vast experience. The game feels massive. I've barely scratched the surface, but the time I have put in has felt constantly rewarding. Add in a solid, if not exceptional story, and lots of side missions, and there's plenty to do here. A lack of multiplayer may be disappointing to some, but the additions are all here. A lovely art gallery full of original works, tons of lore and optional story, the full original soundtrack, and then there's hardcore mode, designed to give veteran players that next level of challenge. Look, you can see it's tough, everything's red. If something is highly priced and crap, then I'm going to destroy it, and so will Glen. But when the price seems fair for the package, then I need to recommend it, and I do. This is really a good game. It scores 16 out of 20. I love it when a game isn't what I thought it was, but it turns out to be better. I was expecting to steal ships and sell cargo, but that isn't this game. Instead, it takes the best ideas from a roguelike and uses that within a compelling space shooter. It scores 81%. Thanks as always for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the content and let us know what you thought down below. And for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!